Sorry. Good evening, everybody. Now we will have a third session of today's program. The guest speaker for this program is Dr. S. Shankar. He is a professor in the Department of Mechatronics Engineering, Kongu Engineering College. He has a wide experience on the rotating machinery failure and the bearing failure. Now he will be presenting a finite element technique to predict the failure of rotating parts. Hypothesis, a case study. A brief introduction about the Dr. Shankar. He is a PhD scholar from IIT Madras, and he has presented more than 100 research paper in the reputed journal. Now currently he is a chief coordinator of R&D cell in Kongu Engineering College. Now I invite Dr. Shankar for this FDP program. Over to Shankar sir to handle the session.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Just. Okay. Good afternoon to everyone. I think, sir, am I audible and my PPT is visible?
Visible, sir.
Sir, it is audible, sir. Audible and
okay.
clear.
Okay. Thank you. Just I am Shankar. I am going to discuss some different topic that is not away from this topic, but it is purely dependent upon rotating elements. Okay. So mostly, if normally people will think rotating element means in mechanical aspects. Normally, I am also a mechanical engineer. In mechanical aspects, people will think rotating elements will ball bearing or like that structure. Applications of the rotating elements is plenty, and to predicting the failure of this rotating element, what is the necessity to predicting the failure of this rotating element is very, very important in research aspects, because the main part I am going to touch is all the rotating elements mostly are in contact with each other. So my area of topic, my area of research and everything is deals with contact mechanics. So if there is any two surfaces which are in contact with each other, either in sliding mode or in rotation mode. Just a minute. 1 hour ஆகும்பா. டிகிரி சரி நான் சைன் போட முடியாது. Okay, 1 hour. Okay. So this rotating parts mostly, if there is any two contact between two surfaces, automatically the contact mechanics element comes into picture. The surfaces may be rotating or sliding, that is not a problem. So finally, what is the consequences? How we are say that is a failure? Either it increases the vibration or it will come directly to the tribological aspects. Tribology is it study about friction, wear and lubrication. Okay, so wear is one of the consequences in the rotating elements. So this wear causes the catastrophic failure in all the rotating elements. So rotating elements, ball bearing or in gear parts or rather there is some possible contact between two surfaces. Automatically the consequence comes into picture is tribological aspect, wear. So I am going to touch those aspects, how to predict wear in experimental aspect as well as in finite element aspect. But application is somewhat different. I am not going to touch any applications with respect to gear geometry or ball bearing geometry, because that mostly all the peoples will touch up with in terms of mechanical. But I am slightly going to deviate from the topic, that I am going to take real world application, that is a hip processes. Okay, why I am taking this concept class, this particular case here is, this hip joint is also like a ball and bearing joint. You can see one artificial hip joint is there. So almost in a human body, the largest load bearing joint is this hip joint. This is a ball and socket joint. This is going to be the largest load bearing joint. So failure at this location is, to predict the failure at this location is very, very crucial, because normally the failure occurs here because of two reasons. One may be aging. So if the people is the people age of the people is above 40 or 50, insufficient lubrication, because normally in hip joints, normal hip joints, there is a segregation of fluid that is called synovial fluid, which is normally segregated inside the human between the joints, and it usually reduces the wear. Due to the aging or some problem with our health, if the secretion of synovial fluid is less, automatically the metal, this is a rolling contact, so rolling metal to metal contact will be there, then it causes wear. So because of the wear, pain comes into picture. Okay, so normally you can ask the same thing. It's going to happen in your rotating elements, either in a ball bearing or a gear. So because of continuous loading as well as rotation, automatically due to excessive load, the material loses its property. Also, some wear debris will comes out from the material, and that is normally will termed as wear. Then the failure occurs. So normally, how in mechanical thing we will predict failure is by doing some experimental analysis, or after failure, sudden failure, then only people normally understand there is some problem with the wear. Because if you take a tool as well as some for machining the workpiece, so online tool condition monitoring is the research topic now. But as of now, in industry, what they will do is just they will know that the life of this tool will be maybe for this much hours, or some 15,000 hours. So after this that much hour, automatically whether the tool is worn out or not, they are going to replace that with the new tool. But think about in terms of cost wise, but without knowing whether the tool is in good condition or bad condition, if you are changing the tool, it loses, we are going to lose a huge amount of money. That normally we will do in online tool condition monitoring or offline tool condition monitoring to predict the wear. But in terms of some applications, either in the medical field, it is very tough to predict the online monitoring, or doing some real-time experiment is very, very difficult. So if I am designing an implant, and if I designing with the material and I'm subjected to human body, it is very, very tough. Not directly implement in a human body, but in the case of industrial or in mechanical parts, we will do. In such cases where the experimental part is very, very difficult, this finite element techniques plays a huge role in predicting failure of all rotating parts or sliding parts or static parts. So how far you can rely upon FEAs, that depends upon the expertise of the researcher, those who are using tool. But in my aspect, 80 to 85% of reliability can be there. By using finite element concepts also, we can predict the failure. Okay, so I'm going to my entire topic is going to I'm going to explain something about what is biomechanics, and I'm going to start what are the research aspects we touched up with, is a hypothesis and what is our finding. So if there is some time at the end, I will show some real industrial rotating system, how we predict a failure in the industrial system. Okay, so before coming to the this institute, I work in industry. My 2.5 years of industrial experience, it's purely dealt with the prediction of failure by using finite element analysis in the rotating parts, that is in especially in motors. Okay, so I'm going to start my session. Before starting directly to the hypothesis, just let's understand what are the some basic terms related to biomechanics. Why I am choosing this area. So this biomechanics is not a purely a mechanical system. This is an interdisciplinary branch of science. It uses engineering background to analyze the biological systems. Okay, because biological systems are very, very complex compared to man-made systems like our motors or rotors and everything. Because there are n number of joints in our human body, mostly in rotating condition or static sliding condition, subjected to subjected to wear. This wear causes a huge, will create a huge pain in almost all the parts. Okay, so doing experimental is always very, very difficult in this biological system. Okay, think that you are doing some composites, composite material. Normally, you can see if I am doing if identifying a polymer or a composite material, and I will take manufacture a gear, and after manufacturing gear, I will do some experimentation in the lab, or directly I can place inside the machines. Okay, it won't cause any huge failure, because if there is any problem with that identified material, it will cause some damage to that connecting members. That's all. But think that I am working with biomechanical field. I identified a plate. Maybe if you are having a fracture, normally doctors, the surgeons, they will do some operation, and they will keep the plate inside your human body. Think that I identified a new material which is more or less similar to that for that plate property. After identifying the material, where to do the experiment? Whether any of the human beings will give permission to keep that material, and they will accept to test that. It is a very, very toughest thing. In most of the mechanical biological systems, experimental, that is in vivo. Normally, there is two experimentations biomedical will call. One is in vivo and in vitro testing. In vivo means inside our human body to keep that new materials, and we are going to test. But normally, that is very, very tough for us freshers, because a lot of research to be carried out in almost all the aspects. If almost all the aspects are satisfied, then they will try up with one or two cases. If it is successful, then only they will implement practically. So how to do research in those aspects means, if you see, only possible way is numerical methods. So numerical methods is the most appropriate technique that to be implemented in biomechanics or biomedical engineering. Okay, so this is not mostly either you can do coding using finite element, or directly you can apply some softwares by using modeling, and then you can validate the results with experimental setup. So these are the normal thing that people will do with the biomechanics field. So normally the biomechanics means, don't expect that only just identifying new materials and placing the new materials in the human body. There are a lot of biomechanics, sports biomechanics, continuum biomechanics, biofluid mechanics, like that. So just I will give some example for sports biomechanics. So normally in cricket, if some bowler is bowling, normally umpire will call that there is a no ball because of the action. So how they will identify the action? So that comes under the category of sports biomechanics. Simply, they are measuring the angle of the bowler which he bowls. What is the degree with convent? If the degree is more than 17 or 19%, they will normally call as, if it is less, it is called as throw. Otherwise, his action is okay. So how they are measuring that? Just they are taking a real bowling action from the field, as well as they will call him for the trial, and by keeping a lot of sensors in the human body, and maybe that surface electromyogram sensors, from the sensors they will capture the data, and they will come to the conclusion that whether his action is related to throw or a bowling action. So that's if you are studying those type of not only in athletics, lot of field there are there. So this all comes under this sports biomechanics. So next I will go with directly with the biofluid mechanics, which I am going to touch. So this normally we'll term as biotribology. So tribology, normally people in the mechanic field, they know what is tribology. So just is the combination of friction, wear, and lubrication. This trio comes on the picture automatically, and that called as tribology. So this application of friction, wear, lubrication in the biological systems, normally we will term as biotribology. Okay. So next is biomimetics. Biomimetics is an interesting field now. Even in IIT Madras, they started one course related to biomimetics. So what is biomimetics? It's once again inspiring from nature, and then we are constructing that. So maybe you can see from inspiring from the bird nest, they will construct building. So inspiring from the fish, they will design the shape. Like that, from nature we inspire, and we are building a system that comes in the category of biomimetics. So directly we'll go to our human body. So human body in biological systems, a lot of implants are there. Implants means it just replace the existing natural with respect to some artificial made. Not only the acetabular or the skip process, there are a lot of implants are available in your human body. The main thing is we won't get the natural material. So you are replacing natural material with artificial man-made material. So a lot of problems will be there. So where are the implants that we can keep as cochlear implants, dental implants, impacts, cardiovascular impact. Normally cardiovascular means either you can say it's a pacemaker or implant is a stent, normally called a stent. So if a person is suffering from heart attack, the problem is there is some clot in the arteries or veins, normally in arteries. So to remove the block, people will term as they are doing angio. Angio, what is the thing what they will do is they will insert that catheter and they will remove the block and they will place the stent. The stent is made up of shape memory alloy. Normally it will comes in the category of smart materials. What is the beauty in shape memory alloys? That normally it will keep the memory of the shape in which manufactured. So it's like a spring. So they will compress and they will insert over the block and they will release it. So because of that shape memory alloy capability, it comes back to original position. Then automatically blood flow will be there. So this is normally the function of stent. Then you will have pacemaker, lumbar disc, prosthetic surgery, acetabular cup, knee, and bone. So this most of the joints are like a rotating component. So if you take here, we are just moving the direction will be just a semi-rotation. Okay, maybe like this, half of the thing rotation will be there. Here in hip also, the possibility of rotation is more than half, not exactly 360 degree, but some 120 to 190 to 120 degree, sorry, 45 to 90 degree possibility there. So this rotating elements causes here. Okay, so before going to FE analysis, important thing we want to know is some properties of bone. So because we are going to replace the artificial man-made material with the naturally available bone. So in because in all the research, what we are going to do is, if you are replacing some material, that material should have the capability for the new material also. Then otherwise it should have better property. Then only it will increase the life of the components. So in majority of the biomedical applications, your artificial material is going to replace the bone. Bone, it is very, it has some typical property. If you say it is very hard normally, but it is elastic as well as tough. You know that by applying that, it will get fractured easily. Think that it's a dynamic, and so it is not a star. It is a very dynamic one. Just you have two types of bone. On outer bone is cancellous and inner force is cortical. So these are some of the properties of the bone you are going to think. So in research, I think that if you are going to replace the bone with some material, artificial material, what are the basic things that should have? One is biocompactability. Biocompactability, if you want to say, if I am replacing a bone with some material, for example, for the past, maybe recent past, they are using some PFM material. Previously, they will use stainless steel as one of the main replacement material for most of the joints. But later they found that the stainless steel has the probability to corrode, as well as once it corrode, automatically the pieces will react with tissues of the human body. Think that if the implant stainless steel, maybe the stent is made up of stainless steel, if you are keeping inside the human body, due to some issues, there may be some debris in the stainless steel and it comes out from the stent. What will happen? It will mix with the blood and it will go through the entire body during circulation, and wherever it interacts with the human tissues, it causes that of damages. So if your replacement doesn't have the excellent biocompactability, then automatically it will cause danger to your human body. So how you can say the biocompactable material? Suppose if the debris comes out from the material and it goes through the blood, it should degrade with the blood. Okay, it should not cause any harmful to the human body. Then normally we'll call it as biocompactability. Second is corrosion resistance. What is the thing we'll call as corrosion resistance? So corrosion resistance, normally body fluids consist of bones and salts. A lot of salts materials will be there in our blood. So if a material subjected to implant is placed in the human body, if it reacts with salt, normally tendency to form oxide layer or some it will react with the blood. Then automatically it will get corrode and it will loses its property, and that material will create problem to the entire human body. So your finding material should resist the corrosion. Okay. Third important one, if you are selecting the material, it should be have mechanical property. What do you say mechanical property? For example, if you are replacing bone with the implant, think that if the bone property is higher and your replacement material have the lower property, normally what will happen? If the implant property is higher, bone property is lower, automatically implant will get wear off easily because bone property is very higher. So if implant wears, automatically there may be some pain in the replacement part. Then they want to do revision surgery. That is called they want to revise the surgery. They want to do once again. Suppose if you think that your bone is very hard compared to implant, in such cases implant will wear. Suppose implant material is very hard compared to bone, bone will wear. So there is a lot of opening in research related to this field, because the bone as well as your implant should be more or less have a similar mechanical property to get the better service life. Okay. So what are the materials available in implants is like mechanical, almost there are, you can say, initially they will use with stainless steel, and then they replace with cobalt based alloys, then they use titanium alloys. So these are applications, some bone fracture, orthopedic implants, dentistry, like that. Then nowadays they are going with this plastic materials, that is polymers. Normally UHMWP, ultra high weight molecular polyethylene is the material. Normally this implant is made up of. Now recent past they are using this material because the compared to the stainless steel, it has good property of mechanical as well as good corrosion resistance. Normally bone cement is they will use to bind. And in recent past, a lot of research works on going on in materials, ceramic materials like aluminum oxide, zirconia, then Al2O3 zirconia, and a lot of maybe polycrystalline diamond. A lot of ceramic materials, the research work is going on to replace the existing material, but these are in research areas. Okay. So now I will directly go to my application. So these are some of introduction about biomechanics. Now I am going to explain how finite element analysis is going to useful to predict the hip process. Okay. So this is the hip process. For example, I already said this is the highest load bearing joint in a human body. Think that I am an 80 kg, and while in standing position, what will be the load acting in the joint? That means if you ask the question, what will be the maximum load at one joint? Normally people say 40 kg, or some people will get 80 kg. But in practical, if I am 80 kg person, the load acting over the joint in normal walking position is 2 to 3 times of body weight. So at least 240 to 250 kilograms acts over this entire location. And people ask how it's possible, because if you are standing, this is the exact posture in which your human body is divided into two. So entire top load is going to act here, and then the reaction force from the bottom is going to act here. So normal in standing posture, 2 to 3 times of body weight will act on joint. If you are running and if you are doing gait activities which is abnormal, like you are jumping, lifting a 40 kg or 50 kg, and you are running, or you are climbing stairs, like that, automatically your body, your weight may increases from 2 to 3 to 8 to 9 times of body weight. So think that this particular part is, if it is failed because of this rotating action or due to some other accidents or minor surgeries, then if you are going to replace this particular material should stand weight of 8 to 9 times of your body weight. If I am 80 kg, at least 800 kg it should support. Then only the failure will be prevented. So if you say what is maybe 8 times of body weight, what may be the entire site of implant means, normally the size ranges from 150 to 160 grams. So this 150 to 160 grams should withstand Dutch weight. then think of about the property of the material. Okay, so this is the natural hip anatomy. You can see normally they will called as in the inside fluid is called synovial fluid. Then this is called femur head, and this is called occipital cup. This side you will have a cup. This side you will have a head. In between you have synovial fluid. If the secretion is synovial fluid is low, automatically metal to metal contact will be there because there may be some rotation here, clockwise and anti-clockwise. So if the fluid secretion is low, automatically these two comes into picture. Then automatically it gets wear off. Okay. So this is supported by ligaments and joint capsule that will be added over this. Okay. So how the implant look like? So this is the implant. You can see. So this is the acetabular cup. This is the femur head. This is the neck, and this is the femoral stem. This is they are going to insert inside the bone, and they are going to pack that. Okay. So the entire weight is going to act on acetabulum cup, and this is a rotating joint. This will rotate, and then the entire weight is going to transfer to this media, neck, and then to the human body. There may be ligaments and tissues will be there, but the load transfer will mostly comes to this neck of the implant. So this neck is very crucial. So these are all some real example for this. And if there is some problem with rotating elements, okay, so what doctors will do? So there are lot of surgery procedures are there. Even some advanced procedures now they are doing, but we are going to deal with only this total hip replacement. There are three existing technique. One is total hip replacement, hemiarthroplasty, and hip resurfacing. These are the three techniques normally people surgeons will do. Either they will take the entire hip joint out and they will replace with the man-made material, or they will go with hip arthroplasty or hip resurfacing. Okay, so just we will deal with only one thing. Just we will do. I am going to take the total hip replacement as the one of the. I think somebody. Hello, somebody is disturbing. Okay. Okay. Sorry. If there is some problem with total hip replacement, what surgeons will do? Okay, you think that they will take an initial X-ray and they find out this part is got eroded or diseased, so they need to remove. They will cut this position. Okay, entirely they will cut the position and they will remove the femoral head out because this is the injured part or diseased part. They will take out, and then this is like a mechanical action. They will do reaming. After reaming, they will place the acetabular cup inside, and after the acetabulum cup, they will take the cutlass bone from this side and they will take out, and they will place the femur inside it, and over that they will keep the head, and then they will insert. So this is the process of hip replacement. You can see a demo here. The entire process is given in terms of animation. So what normally surgeons will do? So this is the surgical procedure surgeons will normally follow during hip implant. அவர் கீழே கௌரிசங்கர் இருப்பார் பாருங்க. So these are the steps normally surgeons will follow to do the surgery. Okay. So now we will come to our business, what we want to do in FEA. So if you think that this is the rotating component and this is the hip as well as hip joint, what are the things which cause failure? If you take, if you divide into three, which cause restriction to motion? Because of the ratio of ball diameter, neck diameter, it resists to the motion. Then because of this neck length, there may be some process in failure. Then orientation of the components in bone. If there is some misalignment in the orientation, it causes the motion and it leads to failure. So these are the 3 points we need to consider. Then in terms of mechanical aspects, stresses on femoral stem. What are the, because of these changes in Young's modulus, we have one acetabulum cup, one femur head, and then bone. Because of that changes in material property, it causes failure. Then increase in force on femoral head. Normally they will plan, because femoral heads are made up of standard size. If the forces it get increased and automatically then predicted, then there will be some failure. Okay, in nature means they will withstand, but in artificial material, if it exceeds it, automatically get failure. Then surface finish and tolerance. So I want to give an example why this implant surgery becomes very costlier. Normally to manufacture this implant in a mechanical lathe shop, it is hardly in the same material. Maybe with some thousands of rupees, so 5,000 to 6,000, we can complete the entire finishing process and everything. But in terms of medical applications, the cost is very high. You can ask a surgeon why the cost is very high, because normally they say that implant is very higher. Cost of the implant is very higher. But practically speaking, the cost of the implant is directly depends upon these two parameters. One is surface finish and tolerance. If you say tolerance, if they say 28 mm is the diameter of this circle, then it should be 28 plus or minus 0.01 mm. So that much tolerance should be there, because you are going to place inside a cup which there should be some radial clearance. So if there is some allowance is more, instead of 28 mm, 28.5 mm, automatically the failure starts from the day one itself. So the manufacturing with the exact tolerance, it's very tough. So one aspect increases the cost. The next is surface finish. So once again, if you say the RA value, what is the roughness of the surface? That surface roughness around the entire specimen should be uniform, and it should be very less. It should be like a very smooth surface. So if it is a irregular surface, maybe if you're saying it's a rough surface, if you are placing the rough surface in acetabulum cup, automatically because of this rough surface, the wear problem there. There is an interaction between the asperities that results with wear. So the surface finish should be as good as possible. It should be like a smooth surface. Okay. So these are some of the things which causes failure to the hip implants. So while starting research before 10 years, exactly 10 years before in this area, we just initially struggled to identify problem. Then we categorized what are the materials available in this. So we categorized metal, we categorized some ceramic materials, and then some plastic. Initially, we didn't concentrate the plastic-based material. So metal, ceramic, there are a lot of research going on. Some people doing some metal, some people doing ceramic, and they are saying this is good. For our initial first work, which starts with collecting all the metals, all the ceramics available on that market that time in the research. Then we implemented same in FEA and tried to predict the wear. Okay. So first, metal means there are 3 possibilities of there initially. That cobalt chromium molybdenum, then stainless steel 316L, that is low carbon steel, then titanium. So these are some of the metal they used normally for biomedical application. Then if you take ceramic, zirconia was used and aluminum Al2O3 was used that time. Now silicon nitride as well ceramic they are trying in terms of research. So we change with that metal on. What happens if metal on contact with metal? What happens if the metal on contact with ceramic? What happens with ceramic contact with metal? Then ceramic and ceramic. So this with 4 combinations we tried with experiment as a finite element software. You can see this is the finite element model. This is the cup as well as acetabulum cup as well as head model. This is simplified version of finite element model. So finite element model, Don't think this. If we are going to analyze hip joint, is not it is necessary to model the entire structure of the human being. So it is not necessary. Simply by keeping the exact boundary condition, automatically we can reduce the complications in modeling, because anyway the outer cup is going to fix at the human body. It is not going to rotate. Rotating element is only is the acetabulum cup. So before that, simply fixing the spot is more than sufficient. No need to model anything. So this is exactly replicate this model. Normally you know that as axiometric model. So axiometric model, if we keep this axis and rotate to 360-degree, automatically we will get the acetabulum cup and femur head. Okay, so you can see we use symmetric model. So instead of 360-degree, 180 is more than sufficient. We are applying the load here. So load normally for this joint human body, what is the load acting? So load ranges from, I said already, some minimum 2 to 3 to some 8 to 9 times of body weight. That depends upon the what type of analysis you are going to carry out. So if you are solving for a standing version, normal walking cycle, so 2 to 3 times of body weight is more than sufficient. You apply here, and there should be some radial clearance. In majority of my research work, we never consider the body fluid. We consider the dry friction. So there are a lot of openings there. If you can able to model in lubricant here, so that is a tough, somewhat tough compared to model dry friction. Okay, some immediately people will ask a question that you are not considered lubricant here, but in practical case you will have a lubricant that reduces the friction here. But how we can convince this? This in finite element method, mostly dry friction. Dry friction is the worst case. If this is failure in worst case, then there is no possibility of doing this. Okay, even in if you are having some lubricant, maybe it will have some extended service life. So dry case is more than sufficient for modeling these hip joints. You can see the boundary condition here is also here outer constraints. Outers are constrained, and this is for axiometric displacement along x-axis is arrested. Okay, you are applying the load. So these are some of the process we carried out. Initially, we carried out the static analysis. We carried out the dynamic analysis. Static means standing condition. Dynamic means walking and running. Okay, so I'm not going to explain too much here, but there should be always an experimental validation if you are doing FEA analysis. If you are doing FEA, though no everyone can use a software, maybe in ANSYS or Abacus or whatever software you can directly use. If you are applying a model and you are loading, you will get the results. But before proceeding to the discussion part, initially you need to validate with some theory. So this is validated initially with simple elastic head contact, as well as experimental approaches they did in vitro testing with the same material. And we predicted pressure and radius initially. So these are some of the combinations of result. You can see normally this is a one-way stress we predicted because of metal. You can see this is red color indicates the subsurface stress. Maybe material 1 combination, material 2, material 3, material 4. Material 1, 2, 3, 4 is like this. So this will be the combination 1, combination 2, combination 3, combination 4, like that. So some combination we can see that there is a subsurface stress. You can see below the, in this case, your stress is at the edge of the contact. So possibility of failure is more. But compared to combination 2, combination 3, you can see there is a subsurface stress. The maximum stress occurs to below the surfaces, and then if you increase the load, it comes back to the surface, and there may be a possibility of failure. Okay, so doing FEA work is not a great deal. You can apply simple loading and structure, you can get the results. But only thing is, you want to discuss how we relate with the practical combination. Okay, so this is one example in analyzing the one-way stress. You can see the combination. What happens if the material is soft and material is hard? So the material is soft, both the materials have the same property. The contact pressure is almost uniform. You can see from here to here, there is a contact pressure. So this is a maximum pressure, this is a minimum pressure. So maximum pressure to minimum pressure, there is a gradual decrease. So the area of contact is very more. But if you take this, one is very hard and one is very low. So huge pressure just occurs near these contact surfaces at the initial contacting region. I mean, it causes more failure compared to combination 1 to combination 4. So from this thing is, we can give a, this is a very simplest exercise we can do, that simple static analysis. from different combinations of material. Cobalt chromium combined with ultra high molecular polyethylene gives the best pair for the static case. This is one such results initially we did. But next we later we moved to full stem model. Okay, in finite element, this is a Chonley based model. Why its name is Chonley is very interesting. That this Chonley is a surgeon come as well as engineer. He did both medical and engineering at the he completed initially medical, then engineering. So he only designed the structures around 1950s. So first time he implemented this concept. So named after him, it becomes the Chonley model. So his model is the till now almost. If you are doing research in changing the design, normally they will compare their model with Chonley model. So he initially assumed that this may be the good cross section for A, B, C, and D to withstand the load. So just we did some research in changing the design implant before going to here in changing the design of implant. You can see this is a femoral symmetric and unsymmetric. Okay, so this layer. You can see some in literatures they tried with different things. One is they used circle entire hip on circle, then ellipse, oval, trapezoidal. They tried with different geometry and come to a conclusion that ellipsoid is given good results. Okay, so this as background. We tried with the ellipsoidal what is going to happen, and we are apply the load here. But here we never consider the crown because our next region is what happens to the neck, whether the failure can occur in the neck, because initially we tried with acetabulum cup, then after that the acetabulum cup is satisfied, then we transferred that directly load over the steamer head with the same modeling. We used trapezoidal model, and then we applied the load and we found out that you can see this is the fully designed trapezoidal model. Approximately we used 16,000 elements to messing the model, and a normal load of 3 kilonewton, which is equivalent to a standard walking condition, is applied at an angle of 20 degree as like to normal human body. Then outer these two locations are constrained, and then solve for the results. Okay, and it already the works are going on. We come up with a suggestion that what happens if there is some holes in the implant holes in the what will happen automatically. There is some literatures available. If there is some holes in the implant, normally the tissue will grow inside this hole, and it will increases the strength. This is the given input given by those scientists. So we tried with this trapezoidal concept already available in the research, as well as second concept of hole with a single analysis, and we tried and we compared with the existing results. Okay, so this is a simple stress distribution. Then we moved upon with the dynamic analysis. Okay, so what happens if a person is walking instead of walking? What happens if you are jumping or stair climbing like that? So the same type of analysis we did, and we got the results. Okay, this is one such example. So initially now I'm going to explain only static and dynamic. In the later part, I'm going to touch upon how to compute the wear. So next I'm going to explain next rotating element, knee, and what the things we did. Okay, so if a person is walking, so normally we'll call this a one gait cycle. That is, if you are walking, if you are keeping one step from this position to this moving, normally we'll break up with two phases. One is stance phase and swing phase. So stance phase, it comes with heel strike, foot flat, mid stand, push up, acceleration, mid swing, deceleration. So this is the one cycle in a dynamic. Okay, if you are moving from one step to other step, then automatically this is called as gait cycle. Okay, so just with the help of the gait cycle, this is the realistic due to this gait cycle, the force are acting here as well as knee. So next I'm going to show the knee demo, which we simulated next second phase. So this is one such rotating component. So this is the replacement of knee procedure. So this is the gait cycle, dynamic gait cycle. If a person is walking from the steps to one step, so you can see a stance phase, swing phase. What is the force acting? So normally, how to predict this? You can place the sensors over the human body and a force plate at the bottom. And if you ask a person to walk, his entire dynamic force we can be recorded. So normally we will categorize into 27 instance normally. This 27 instance, your load will be very like this. So normally F is at force along x direction. In medical, there are a lot of different terms are there. F is at instead of F is at, they will do flexion and extension like that. So the maximum load will be, you can see 5000 Newton will be the maximum load. If you want to do real analysis, this would be the maximum load we need to apply over the human body. Okay. So I think I skipped that. In that also we did some works in that type of work, and we come to a conclusion that what is the soft and hard. Okay. So next is just I'm going to touch up with the wear prediction using ANSYS. How to predict wear in ANSYS? Normally people will say predicting wear in software is very much tough, but normally using softwares we can predict wear, but subjected to some parameters which we obtained from experimental. Okay. So this work we started from 2015 to predict wear using directly using some softwares, and we validate that results with experimentation. Okay. So what is the objective of the study is to predict the wear of using finite element concept considering head and cup for hard on half and hard on soft process. Okay. So mainly the material we consider is polycrystalline diamond and silicon nitride. So with this combination, if a person is walking out, okay. So because why wear prediction become necessary is in realistic life, if you are keep implanting in a human body, normally its service life is 10 to 12 years. Maximum 12 years is the service life. So if you are increasing the material, it can maybe extend to 1 year or 0.6 months. Normally it will give a huge benefit to the society. But to predict that wear after 12 years, what happens if you implant polycrystalline diamond in the human body, and then what happens after 12 years? It is very, very tough to in experimental observation. You just implant, I want to do operation, you want to do keep PCD, and you want to ask the, you want to continuously monitor that human for 12 years or 13 years, and then we need to predict. Normally that surgeons will predict for an individual case, but for a research it will be take too much time. So but if you can able to predict what happens at the end of 12 years by using a software, it will be very much useful for the society. So how we can predict wear, that I will explain here. So you can see these are the properties of different material combination. If the cup and head is of same material, what happens to the Young's modulus, what happens to the friction coefficient, what happens to the Poisson's issue. So this is one of the very important parameter we need to implement in the to predict the wear, because wear coefficient is normally just is a ratio of volume of material removal to the applied load into sliding distance. This is the mathematical form. How to predict the wear coefficient is normally people will in mitral testing like pin on disc or ball on disc experiments, if you can able to have the two material and for a continuous subjected to loading as similar to the human, I will show some examples later. By the loading, we can easily predict the wear coefficient. That wear coefficient we are going to apply in the finite element software to predict the wear of the implant. Okay, so this is purely depends upon the experimental result. Without this wear coefficient, we cannot predict in software. Okay, so software we can predict normally for applied load, what is the pressure, contact pressure, what is the von Mises stress, what is the deformation. But if you want to extend to predict the wear, so we need to know some other mathematical thing, that is wear coefficient, sliding distance, etc. So these are the data for different combinations: PCD and PCD, silicon nitride and silicon nitride, aluminum nitride on ultra high weight molecular polyethylene, then cobalt, rhodium, ultra high molecules, zirconium, ultra high molecules. So, what is the advantages of doing research in software is changing a material and doing the simulation is a matter of time. Okay, but in real case, if you are going to do this PCD and experimental, and if you want to find, to take huge amount, at least 6 months to predict the exact consequences by using the pin on disk, and then to getting the purchasing of equipments, and it will take a lot of time. But in a software, if I can able to predict this simply by changing the property, I can predict Si3N4, L2O3, UHM, WP, and what are the combinations like that. Okay, so this is the use of finite element software. So there are some different methodology you need to apply to predict this wear in using ANSYS. Okay, so these are all general steps. One is initially we need to define the material property, we need to create the geometry, we need to mesh and generate the contact. Then we want to apply the load and calculate the wear by using Archer's law. We are going to use Archer's law, that is a standard wear law, to predict the wear. That is KW, that is wear coefficient into load into sliding distance. Okay. Wear coefficient, contact pressure into sliding distance. So we know the applied load from software, we'll calculate the contact pressure. Then by multiplying contact pressure with the wear experimental wear coefficient and input sliding distance, we'll get the wear. Okay, this is a normal wear. So for one cycle, it is okay. But if you are implementing this is inside the human body, and if you want to test for long time life prediction, okay, maybe 10 years or 12 years, then the load should be repeatedly applied for a continuous n number of cycle. So at the end of each cycle, the geometry should be updated. Okay, suppose if your geometry is like that, if you are applying load, it will deform like that. From second instant, you want to consider this as my original geometry, and then you want to apply load. But in FEA software, if the geometry of the node is not updated, what will happen is, if you are applying load and if you remove, it will come back to the original position. Then if you are applying load, it will come back, removing, it will come back to the original position. You won't get the realistic picture of a lifelong prediction. So the updating the geometry of the varying surface and reinvest the model is the thing we want to do to predict the wear of the hypothesis. For if you are saying that I am doing my FEA simulation for 2 million cycles, then you want to update the geometry for a specified number of cycles to predict the wear. This is the closed loop. Once again, you want to mesh, apply load, you want to calculate the contact pressure, then you want to update the geometry, then you want to mesh, you want to do the repetitive by using GUI or APD language. Then you can predict the wear. Okay, so this is steps normally carried out using the wear in finite element software. So this is a simple geometry. You can see this is a radial clearance, and because your cup and head will have radial clearance. Okay, so this is a geometry, and this is the thing I explained in the modified Archer wear law. So if you want to calculate wear, so these three things are very important. This P we can calculate from the software, and this KW we need to calculate from some in vitro testing like pin on disk or something testing. We want to calculate the wear coefficient. Then this is S is the sliding distance. What is the sliding distance? They are going to give us input. So this is input, this is output, this is from experimental. You can calculate linear wear. So if you multiply with the area, you will get volumetric wear. So this volumetric is the cumulative wear after this million cycles. What is the wear? Okay, so this is the thing, ultimate thing we want to find out. So you can see here we cannot use two-dimensional axisymmetric model because the geometry is going to update it. So 2D model will never get will suit for this purpose. So this is the acetabulum cup, 3D acetabulum cup, and this is the femoral head. You are going to apply load. So this is the X, Y, and Z axis. That depends upon in medical term they will explain. They will say it's a medial lateral, superior inferior, anterior posterior, and rotation. So rotation and flexion extension, then internal, external, abduction, abduction. So you can change whatever the angles you want in the software. That depends upon by keeping one constant and rotating other. I keeping femoral head constant and rotating acetabulum like cup like this, or it rotate in this like. Okay, that's what much that may be possible. So this is the force input we need to give the software. It's already I explained how to predict that force input. Force input, just load versus cycle. You are going to give input to the software or the same cycles. Normally, with some you can see that 32 instance they split, and the maximum load is around 3 kilonewton for this case. Okay, that depends upon the person weight. So this is the ultimate final. Before starting, first we need to validate our result. So we tried with the same set of input data. Initially, it's solved by Udin and Zhang. So he's from University of South Australia, Udin. So he initiated the finite element software prediction, weight prediction. So we tried with the same set of inputs what he given with the same data, and we tried. So almost our results and results more or less matching. So first thing what we extended is by confirming that our FEA results is matching with some observations of literature. This is published in Weir journal. He validated his results with some experimental cases. Okay, so then almost what we did is correct. Then initially we changed the radial clearance from 0.03, 0.05, 0.75. So you can see there is a radial clearance between these two geometry. So what happens if the radial clearance increases? I mean, experimental is very, very tough because it is rotating. If there is change in radial clearance, what happens? From simulation, easily we can change the radial clearance. And then for radial clearance, what is the pressure? So you can say pressure is for first case, first instance, it is 71, 15th instance 110, 29th instance 48. I just we taken the 3 instance for each cycle. Instance means this is the instance. Okay, this is the first instance, 7th instance, 25th instance. Like that, 3 random instances are taken, and we predicted the contact pressure. From contact pressure, we calculated the wear and everything. This is for silicon nitride. You can see contact pressure for first and the end of 2 million cycles. So this may be the first cycle. So initially the pressure is 116 megapascal, but at the end of 2 million cycles, maybe 2 million cycles, if I say that is approximately equal to 2 years of life cycle, this pressure is normally reduces from 116 to 41. That means, so initially there's a point contact will be there. Keep on updating the point contact, material will get wear off, then automatically the point will get flattened, initial contacting point, then pressure will get reduced. So like that, for different radial clearance, initial and at the end of 2 million cycles, for this is for polycrystalline material and this is for silicon nitride material is taken. And then this is for contact pressure for alumina, cobalt, chromium, and zirconia. You can see this is alumina and UHM bit combination, cobalt, chromium, and UHM bit combination, zirconia and UHM bit combination. What happens if the materials we are changing from alumina to cobalt, chromium to zirconia? What about the wear? And we calculated. So you can see this is the wear. So we are interested with volumetric wear. You can see this is the cumulative wear, and I will explain. I missed that volumetric wear. So you can see some literature. This is Udin and Zhang results is there. Then initially we changed with different radial clearance, and because of the changes in radial clearance, the radial clearance is 0.03. The possibility of wear is 0.7. So this type of wear will become a guide for surgeons as well as researchers. So if you keep on increasing radial clearance, you can possibility of wear is around 0.6 microns will happen at the end of 2 milliseconds. At the end of 2 years, approximately 0.6 micron wear will happen if there is some high radial clearance. If the radial clearance is low, then minimum amount of wear will happen. So like this, we can try with the possible combination when we compare with our results with data. So you can see what happens for at various gate cycle. You can see that maximum of at the end of 2 million cycle, 1 mm is the wear, but 1 mm wear is also is very high if you're comparing with the biomedical system. 1 mm of that is 1 mm cube of wear. Normally, it causes huge pain to the human body. So you can see if you're going with zirconia and UHM combination, the wear is very high, low compared to alumina as well as cobalt, chromium, UHM WPE. So this research will become insight to the researchers working in a biomedical field. Why can't we go with zirconia instead of the UHMB for next trials? Okay, so these are some of the results in terms of findings. So there are a lot of works we carried out in this with different combinations. Initially, we tried with experimental work, sorry, simulation work. Then we did some tribological work and everything. So just you can see this is a total. Just I will skip this total angle displacement. Then there are some of the works we did with the dental applications. Okay, so normally dental also subjected to pressure, and then because of the load acting over our teeth, automatically it will failure. Okay, so we tried with some same software modeling with the different modeling software, then imported to ANSYS, and we predicted the failure. Okay, just these are all. Just I will circulate the slide. This you can understand easily. The same is similar to hypothesis. It's okay. Next one, rotating joint. Okay, this is another one example of a rotating element. Spine. You can see our human spine consists of vertebrae like this. So another one toughest thing is if there is any problem, you can see example. So this will be like this. If there is any problem with the spongy structure, automatically it is very tough to replace with the artificial implant. And also you can if you Google what is the function of that that anterior posterior part, you can find that disc becomes disc as well as the spongy. It becomes very tough. Okay, so if there is a problem or disease in the structure, replacing this with a man-made material and replicate the function of natural is always very tough. But if there is any issues in that, they want to replace this intervertebrate disc. Okay, so mostly it pain. Normally people, the surgeon will not do any operation because of that minimum pain. But in case of any accidents, then they will replace this with our existing material. You can see because of why the probability of failure will be there means it can rotate like this, it can lateral bend like this, it can flexion extend bend like this. So the spine will have all type of rotation that will act along the parts. Okay, so you can see this is the normal disc, this is the degenerative disc. So if there is any problem with the disc, the surgeons want to remove this and they want to replace with the existing material. So one of the things we want to find out what is the wear after a certain times. So same methodology in hip we implemented here to calculate the thing. So here instead of total hip replacement, they will call as total disc replacement, TDR. So disc piece is normally removed and they replacement with the implant. They will call as a ProDiscal. These are the materials. So you can see this is the implant. Just I will explain the modeling directly. These are all retrieved. You can see this is the implant model. There are three parts available. One is superior end plate, inferior end plate. In between there is a polymeric core. So these three can be a replacement for your natural material. So these three can be replacement for a natural material to replicate the function. But so superior end plate, inferior end plate, and a polymer core. So initially we did FE analysis to predict the wear as similar to the previous case. What is the wear if the material is changed? Okay, so you can see the property of the material, end plate, polycore, as well as both end plates and polycore. And this is the number of elements which we meshed. And then this is the loading pattern. It's not like our hypothesis. We want to give rotation angle with respect to flexion angle, lateral bending, angle twist, and then with respect to joint load, we are given as an input. And you can see, find out the wear of our experimental simulation result with experimental results. Rawlinson et al. They used experimental observation. So initially we tried up with a cumulative linear wear as explained in the previous case, and then we validated with this Rawlinson et al. Model. You can see that this is the contact pressure distribution at the initial cycle, end of 5 million cycle, end of 10 million cycle. So because of this pressure, the variation in pressure, we applied in the Orchard wear law and we can calculate the wear. Okay, so this is the wear. You can see for different combination, a metal on plastics or metal on metal like that. So we can find linear wear for cobalt chromium aldehyde molecular polyethylene 316SL UHMWPE. So this is the use of software. Okay, so if you are a surgeon is using only UHMWPE, WHMWPE, so at the end of 10 million cycles, approximately equal to 5 to 6 years, sometimes up to 10 years, maybe it may be assumed too. So this may be the wear. If you validate one with experimental results, automatically by changing the material property, we can predict wear and we can say that approximately this is the wear. So you can come, if you are going with CO, CR, MO, UHMWP, your material removal will be 0.4 to 5. If you are using CO, CR, MO, CO, CR, MO, we will less material removal. then best may be aluminum oxide, alumina. So these are some of the combinations results we can give. So this is the final volumetric wear, how much wear totally comes out of the material. Okay. So normally you can see there is a huge amount of wear comes out. If you are using COC or COC or MO, your remove wear will be very, very less. So from the software itself, we can predict what is the material loss in terms of compared to experimental work. Okay. So before going to, so just I will explain how to determine experimentally using in a heap process study. Just we used aluminum oxide as a pin material, aluminum oxide as a base material, zirconium oxide is a pin material, aluminum is a base material, silicon nitrate a pin, and alumina on a base. Okay, so instead of synovial fluid, we assessed certain lubricant oil, same oil, Ringer solution, saline solution as a lubricant medium to identify the friction between the parts, and there is some submodeling technique we predicted. Okay, so normally we can use pin on disc stabilizer. That is more than sufficient to predict the wear because we need Kw. Already I explained the Archer wear law. That Archer wear law, we need friction coefficient. So this is a rotating jet. Normally pin on disc tribometer is widely used to experimental approach to predict the wear. So normally the base is rotating element, and the pin is a stationary component. Maybe the pin is cylindrical flat or sometimes circular ball structure. If you are applying the load and this is parts rotates automatically, this is a static part. So the resistance created tangential force. Normally tangential force by applied load we can calculate coefficient of friction. Then we can calculate weight loss from initial weight to final weight with respect to sliding distance. We can calculate the wear coefficient. So these are things we can find out from the experimental things. So for our simulation purpose, actually we used this disc as alumina. We changed some different ceramic materials, alumina, then zirconia, then silicon nitrate. We have different balls. We use that to predict the wear. Okay. So these are the three different balls. Practically, we imported from China and we tested for zirconia, alumina, and silicon nitrate. This is the material property from manufacturing data. So first, just I will show them. These are some of the experiments. From the experiments, in pin and disc, normally people will do sliding distance of 1 kilometer like that, and they will do take from that 1 kilometer reading, and then they will incorporate it in the final element software, and they will predict. But what we did is we continuously run it for 60 hours. This 60 hours is your service life of 10 years in a human body. If you are implanting in a human body, approximately the rotation will 60 kilometer of rotation will be there. So for 60 kilometer of rotation, we tried with the same combination, and we predicted coefficient of friction as a sliding distance for dry and with a biolubricant. So initially we tried with here only once a saline solution, and then you can see for dry the friction is high compared to the biolubricant. Biolubricant friction is low. Then we calculate the wear coefficient. This is the wear coefficient. This is volume loss of the material, load applied over the pin, and this is sliding distance. So with this we can calculate wear coefficient. So this wear coefficient as an input, we once again used FEA package to predict the real-time failure of hip process by using front element concepts. Okay, so this is running in this steady state. This is for next activity. Zirconia and alumina for a different activity. Just, you can see this is the cases what we considered. Okay, so if a person is sitting down, then what is the load, what is the angle, what is the equivalent load, what is the friction obtained, what is the wear coefficient obtained. So I'm going to take this as input and sliding distance as input, and this as applied load. We can calculate pressure from the software, and we can predict the life of the process. That is the way we relate with pin on disc with the real case simulations experimental setup. So if a person is lifting 25 kg, what happens? If the person is stairs up, what happens? If the person is stairs down, what happens? If he's lifting 40 kg, what happens? Carrying 25 kg, what happens? Stairs down 25 kg, what happens? Ladder up 70 degree, what happens? So these are some of the cases normally human hip process will undergo. If after implantation, if the person undergoes this activity, what is the wear? So that we want to predict, that we can predict from the software itself. Okay, so you can see, just I will explain only the final results. group A, group B, group C, D, and what is the failure coefficient. From this, we given input to the FEA software and we predicted here. Okay, so these are some of the insights of your rotating in human applications. Okay, so next maybe for 5 minutes I will give some practical example in industry how FEA can be useful. Uh, so maybe just I will you can see, and don't think that the number of slides is very high. Just I will explain the gist. So these are all works we did in 2010 working industry. So you can see faint elements of a rotor. So this is the rotating component. It's an underwater applications. Okay, underwater for this is a simple motor. This is a motor, not like our agriculture purpose or a commercial simple motor. So this is they will normally used for to take petroleum product from the sea. Okay, so if you want to give an example, normally a person will sit inside and they will do all the winding. So that much height it will normally have. So you can see the height of the blocks and everything. So this is the inner rotor. Okay, this is a rotor, and you can see all the windings and everything. This is also a rotating component. Just some so what why they given for the FE analysis is, so the rotor is starting rotating. Maybe two speeds normally they will have. Maybe 1800 RPM and 3600 RPM is the 2700 RPM. So because of this rotation, what will happen is you can see the winding try to expand. For a continuous rotation, the winding trying to expand. There is a minimal air gap between the this spot and this spot. So, but what happens is because of the continuous rotation, there is a contact between this spot and this spot, and then they will have some layers. They will have some installations over this, but because of this extension to and fro, the installation get wear off. Automatically, there is a short circuit and leads to catastrophic failure. This is the problem given to the industry. So we need to find out what happens if during rotation and what is the maximum amount of expansion it is possible, whether it will go beyond the air gap or not. So the air gap may be approximately or 1 mm or 2 mm, whether it expands more than 2 mm, if in cases what we can do. So this is the objective given to us, and for the FE analysis, so this is the FEA model, entire model. Just I will explain what we did. So initially we tried it, instead of air gap, why can't we go with some Nomex fabric or epoxy laminate? We can keep any material like this. If you expand, it will try to deform, but it will not cause us any danger to the windings. So automatically, if there is not causing any danger to the this installation, our intention will get satisfied. Okay, so we tried up with some solution. So these are some of the individual components. You can see n number of components in a motor. Motor means you can see these are outer components, rings, spacer blocks, heat sink, coil assembly. You can see coil inside that there is a winding will be there. So V block, laminate. So at motor it consists of this much number of assembly. So for simplification purpose in FEA, only a quarter symmetry model is considered. So this is a quarter symmetry. If you rotate this model, you'll get a 4 windings like this. Okay, so this type of FEA can be performed. This is the number of elements, and this is the nodes data given. And instead of going for full model, just a cyclic symmetry model is performed, because this type of assumption finite element will reduce the number of elements as well as computational time. So doing FEN work is not a great thing, but ultimate objective is to need to reduce the time as well as complexity involved in the FEA procedure. You can give all the inputs. These are all, you can see how much material is in a motor. You can see each and every material will have different property. One is made up of steel, copper, polyester, installation, different material and different yield strength, and they want to give us the input to the material. And this is the final outcome. What happens if it rotates to 1800, what happens to this 2600 RPM? You can see the maximum deformation of coil is 1.68 mm. Here 1.98 mm. So the maximum 1.9 mm it can expand. So what happens to the contact pressure, and what is the radial displacement of each and everything? These are all you can skip. So ultimately, you can see that what happens to the each and every rotating part, what happens, what is the stress and everything. You can see this is the Normex. So if we are keeping a Normex plate material inside, what is the maximum stress created and what is the maximum one Mises stress developed in that material. So around 68 megapascal, we can compare your simulation results with their actual yield strength. And if it is found satisfied, then you can say that your FEA gives the best results. Okay, but directly you can't keep this Normex fiber inside the motor and we can go for experimental purpose, because you think that this motor, if they kept inside the underwater applications for fault diagnosis, they won't take immediately out. So once they keep, unless otherwise there is a problem with the motor, the entire setup they need to stop and they want to take out, they need to bring it to the industry and they want to do all the works. So just like that, we cannot give a conclusion, but based upon the given data, Normex may be somewhat good. Okay, so these are all some other stress plots with that material. You can see epoxy laminate and everything. So these are all some of applications that what finite element can software can do in your real world applications, not only in human hip prosthesis, maybe in rotating components or gears, in any number of applications. You can start up with FEA work. You can find the stresses and strains and von Mises stress. Sometimes you can predict vibration also by using softwares, and then for to validation purpose, you can go for experiments. So this is some of the conclusions I want to give. You can, there are some conclusions. Okay, so I think almost 1 hour 20 minutes is over. So I am completing my session. So what is the thing I want to conclude is softwares. So in majority of the applications, experimental results will give exact results. I don't have any second thought in that. So if you are doing research in any research in this type of areas, experimental you want to do, but softwares, you can rely upon the software results. First, you can try up with software results, you can predict that, and if you are satisfied, then we can go for experiment. Okay, worldwide they are accepting this software results. You can see in more number of publications, they come up with all mostly with softwares. Not I'm not going to say that use ANSYS, maybe ANSYS or ANSYS or Abacus, or there are exclusive softwares are available for a particular model. You can try up with, and you can give a strong conclusion whether what may be the result. Then you can go up with experimental results. Okay, so with this, I am going to conclude my session. So the session is open for questions. If you have any questions, I will try to answer. Then if there is no question, then we can close the session. Okay.
Dr. Sanga, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
I have only one doubt. You have found one good material for your replacement of bone, hip bone, right?
Yeah.
Have you analyzed if any surgeon replaced like your materials or other materials? Have you analyzed? Having any case study for this one?
Sir, actually
after your research work.
Yes, sir. Sir, just please mute your mic. I am getting distraction.
Yeah.
Sir, actually, in a medical purpose, if you say ceramic, still the surgeons they are using in manufacturing, they are come up with WHM, WPE. So just with this one wear data, we cannot directly ask surgeon or ask medical practitioner or industry person will go manufacture. There are a lot of other tests like corrosion test is there, then the surface, there are a lot of tests are there. So we want to do all the tests. There are n number of publications are there. If the material is satisfied all the conditions, then only they will go for next level testing. After the testing only, the manufacturer will come up with the solution. So whatever materials we tried up with, most of the surgeons commercially available is UHM WPE, not even alumina, and but plenty more than thousands of papers available in silicon nitride, then extension that still on less research purpose. We cannot directly after this publication we cannot directly go for any material, any conclusion to make the product, because still there are a lot of testing need to be done before to implant with the human body. This is my answer for this question.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other participants?
I think so. No other questions. I think we can wind up this session, sir.
Okay, okay, okay. Thank you, Shankar, for your nice presentation. So thank you, Shankar, for your wonderful explanation on hip prosthesis. Yeah, really a wonderful case study. I hope the participants will can benefited among this lecture, and there may be a eye opener for this type of problem in their future. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Participants, feedback form is given in the chat section. Kindly fill it up, sir.